Hey everyone, this is John Hallett here with the John Hallett Podcast. And today I've got on with me for my very first episode, the guy that encouraged me to start a podcast, Josh.
Hey John, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.
Wonderful. Thanks for encouraging me to finally do it. I've thought about doing it over the years, and thanks for the push over the cliff.
Yeah, well, you have a lot to tell people, right? You've got a lot of experience, especially when it comes to life, living, martial arts, family, and stuff like that. And when I visited your school, which if you haven't gone there, it's Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness here in Castle Rock, Colorado. Great school for learning Krav and all that stuff. When I saw it and I met you, I knew this is something I wanted to be a part of. And then it wasn't much to actually get you to want to do a podcast because, I mean, you had a desire, is what you kept telling me to do it. And I was like, well, let's get started.
Yeah, I've had a lifelong desire to help people. I've always wanted to be a coach. My football coaches, I can't even nail three of them. I can't even pin one on being the sole responsibility for really wanting to be a coach. But I know they all motivated me in different ways, and I always wanted to get into coaching in some aspect and started doing martial arts after I had gotten out of high school and was doing a little bit of coaching at my local boys club, and then kind of started in martial arts on Nantucket, and that kind of became a full-time gig on the side, coaching.
Interesting. So you've always had an interest in kind of a leadership role, because coaching is leadership. So has it been something that's been part of you for a long time?
Yes. Sometimes, I always liked having good coaches and following good people. And I have great coaches now. My coach, John Whitman out in California for our Krav Maga Alliance organization here is fantastic. But, sometimes just stumbling upon people that you wanted to train with and they just weren't that great. So I went out and searched out better training and did bigger things than I could find locally and started doing different certifications along the line.
So did you travel a lot when you were trying to figure out like what Krav was going to be for you long term?
Yes. When I started Krav Maga instructor training, I was traveling like every 6 months for quite a few years doing certifications or just trying to get into an advanced training course. Or prep course, you name it. So I did a whole lot of traveling, and a lot of it was from Nantucket Island all the way out to California. And then when I moved here 16 years ago to Castle Rock, the commute was a little bit shorter, but as time goes by and I advance more, we focus more here in my development since I've gotten my black belt, and now just last fall I got my 4th degree black belt.
Wow.
So, we do a lot of instructor development here and a lot of training here and focus on that type of thing here.
Hey, before we get too in deep into your Krav and stuff like that, so what's your background? And did you come from Nantucket? Is that where you grew up?
I grew up outside of kind of, most people know where the Patriots play. I grew up like a couple miles away.
Really?
There, and I was
actually a Patriots fan?
Oh, yeah. Grew up outside of, what back then was Foxborough Stadium.
Really?
So my grandparents, you could hear the PA from my grandparents' house on a Sunday. So grew up there in Wrentham, Massachusetts, and then my father moved us to Nantucket Island. It was an awesome place to grow up, and it had just a fantastic culture of football, and that was the thing to do in the town. So it was like the first thing all the boys said, "Do you play football?" And I just said yes.
Okay. Yeah.
I was a baseball player.
Sure.
But everybody was talking football there, and really fell in love with that, and had just some fantastic coaches along the way.
That's pretty cool.
And then after that, was looking for something to do. Was working for my father's construction company, and was looking for something else to do. And in my local lifelong, fitness enthusiast, was always going to the gym, and stumbled on a martial arts school that was training out of our local health club, and started Taekwondo with Master Miller on Nantucket Island.
That's interesting. What'd you think of Taekwondo? Fun?
It was fun. It was the only thing to do there.
Sure.
A few of the guys and myself, actually one of my first assistant, we both started training like out of basements and stuff like that. He was an ex-boxer out of Boston, so we started doing stuff we couldn't do in Taekwondo class and training a little bit rougher.
Sure.
And when I found Krav Maga, Jack was my first assistant, so he came and fulfilled the obligation of you needed 2 instructors to open a Krav Maga affiliate or licensee back then for Krav Maga worldwide. So I thought it was fun. It gave me a good background. I tell people all the time, that have only done Krav Maga and are now coaching. I'm like, you got to understand where people came from. It helps you relate to other martial arts. I love the experience. It was great coaching kids. Not the most practical martial art, but sometimes, just any martial art. So I tell people, if you have some training, it's going to be better than no training. Right. So
I get that.
It was fun. I was looking for something more practical towards the end, and had got my first computer and was online, and had my black belt magazine, and found Krav Maga instructor training course.
I can't tell you how much I used to read black belt magazine just to see what was going on in the state of martial arts, and it's like one of the only publications you can find out there. So if you haven't been in martial arts and you haven't read black belt magazine, I encourage our listeners to check it out.
Yes, those are all hard to find. I mean, of course, you can find everything online, and now the sources there. I mean, way back when, there was nothing. I remember just as a martial artist that wanted to learn, I was buying videos, which is crazy. VHS, and you're like, oh my gosh, I just wasted some money,
some stuff
on this, video that I bought, just seeing what's out there. I mean, the state today, you can just find everything at your fingertips. Back then,
you would get
really
videos
hard.
that were laughable sometimes. Like, wow. But there were some gyms out there.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few that would show up that were fun to watch. You a family man?
Yes.
Cool.
Yep.
Married, kids? What you got?
Yep. Married, kids, stepkids, adopted kid, you name it.
Really? I had no idea. See, those are details nobody will know about you.
Yep.
All right. So you got into Krav, and what did you learn about Krav Maga? I mean, what's kind of like the history of it? What's the background on it, right? Because people want to know what Krav is compared to other martial arts. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Krav Maga started in Israel with a gentleman, Emi Lichtenfeld, that has, fantastic history of, he started and wrote the manual for the original Israeli Defense Forces, the Haganah.
Really?
He, very impressive resume from boxing, wrestling, kind of did it all with street fighting, went way back when, and made his way to Israel out of Europe. So very impressive background, and his aim was always so one may walk in peace. That was the aim of Krav Maga. Wanted people to be able to walk in peace and not be persecuted and not be attacked for who they are. So very interesting.
It's hard living in Israel. I mean, everybody's out to get you for the most part.
So very practical stuff. They always say, one of my Israeli instructors, I think it was my very, very first course, Sam Sadeh, had said, if my arm is blown off in combat, I'm going to pick it up and use it. That's Krav Maga. And I remember my first day going, okay, well, that really sums it up right there. Like, I'm going to do whatever it takes to go home.
Sure.
I loved Krav Maga from the get-go. I, loved the aspect of sparring and fighting and being practical, and I always wanted to have what I did work. I mean, I remember I didn't do very many tournaments, but, when you did something against the rules, like just punching someone in the face and getting a point deducted, I just didn't find that practical type of thing of Taekwondo. And Krav Maga, when I first found it, their weapon defenses was something that just blew me away, because everything in Taekwondo, and I did Hapkido as well, just didn't seem practical to me. And I used to actually skip weapon class until my instructor said, you're getting up there towards your advanced belts, you need to go if you want to advance. So I went to advance in my belts, but I didn't really find them practical. And that was something that when I was searching out Krav Maga or a more practical martial art, that their weapon defenses just blew me away.
Yeah.
So,
and me being a brand new student of yours and watch, I just come in and watch you do some of these things with the more advanced students. And it's really fun to watch. And it's crazy because you're looking at something that's not a sport. Like, a lot of martial arts are sports, but what you're teaching is like the true self-defense. I mean, it's meant to protect my life and take it if I need to, or at least get out of that situation.
Yeah,
which is what really turned me on to it, right?
Yeah, it's a mindset. We're not going in the ring. There's great ring systems. There's very practical stuff out there. Muay Thai, BJJ. There's tons of practical things, but when you're training for a competition, as great as those systems are, you're still doing a competition. Like out in the streets, a whole different animal where there are no rules. They're kicking you to the groin. They might decide to pull a weapon mid-fight. Very, crazy world out there. Yeah, their friends join in. That's all things
you guys were telling me is always keep your head on that swivel. Look for that next opponent.
Yeah, be looking for their friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. So, yeah, just beyond practicality, I know there's a lot of push lately with the big MMA people saying that the only thing you should be learning out there is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Do you find that being the case, that everybody's pushing one more than the other? And
I think so. I think martial arts kind of become a religion and what's popular, and you got big names talking about BJJ. I think it's super practical. It's great.
It's a martial art.
Great system.
Yeah.
We incorporate those things in Krav Maga.
Yeah.
Like our mindset is that we're not going to specialize in one thing because I need stand-up. And what about all those weapons that I could be faced with? So we try to be well-rounded, and that's something that drew me into Krav Maga, that it was well-rounded in a complete system. Because sometimes when people blend martial arts, you're like, well, it's a blend, but is it really a good blend? I've seen a lot of impractical things out there.
Yeah, which kind of blows my mind, because everybody's got this mentality that something's better than the other. And I had a real problem with that because I visited a lot of schools before I went to yours, just because, shop around.
Yeah.
And the mentality is like, ours is the only way to do something and we're number one, we're the best, right?
Yeah.
But for the most part, I didn't see that actually being really applicable in the real world, for lack of a better word. You know what I mean?
Grappling in a street fight or what we've seen over COVID, you're in some sort of riot scenario. You don't want to be on the ground.
No. I want to be moving. And then that's just what I wasn't learning, or at least seeing them teaching there.
Yeah.
And when I walked in your school and you were like, get them away, move away, look for the next opponent if you can, and then kind of just preserve your life for as much as you can of someone else as you protect yourself. And that's what I really liked about it.
Yeah. I think learning different skills and being versed midway through, different martial arts and having a good understanding of a ground game. We want our Krav Maga students to have a good understanding. We want to be doing those things because that's Krav Maga. We want to be able to defend threats. And it's a changing system. We're not going to stay stagnant when we see more people training in a different system. Well, we want our people to be able to defend what they're doing in that system. But again, we're going to hit to the groin. I want to get out of there. Yeah. I'm going to use an object I find on the ground or in my pocket to get away from somebody that might have me in a triangle choke or you name it. I come back to this comment an instructor made at one of the courses I did. He was law enforcement out LA somewhere. I forget what department. And he was telling us a story of coming up onto a bar fight. And he gets out of his cruiser and there's a guy just really irate, really mad, but he's holding his eyeball in. He had gotten his orbital broken and his eyeball had come out and he's just holding his eye back into place as best he can.
Nice.
And he's trying to calm him down. Like, what's going on? He's like, I was just about ready to tap him out. And he said, that's where you went wrong. You were thinking the guy was going to tap out. You were in a street fight. Yeah. There's no tapping out in a street fight.
No.
And just that mentality, and somebody kicked him in the face. So I want to be up and out of there. I think, how much damage an untrained person could do to you. Yeah. Somebody's spouse that you're down on the ground. So we love it. It's one thing. Sometimes Krav Maga gets a lot of hate. I love martial arts. Oh yeah. Just go on the internet.
Seriously?
Josh, have you been on the internet?
I try not. Yeah, I do. I do. It's how I found you. Let's be honest. Really? No, I never really looked. I generally don't look for that.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of martial arts, I always say it's like a religion.
Yeah, everybody's got an opinion.
If you're doing something different, it's wrong.
Yeah.
Because we're doing it the right way. We're always trying to be open. I'm always trying to learn. Like, is there something better? Like my personal mindset is I can get better.
Yeah.
I'm always trying to get better. I don't think I'm an expert at anything. People, oh my gosh, 4th degree black belt. I'm like, I got so much to learn.
Right. What I learned in a lot of martial arts is that people stop at the black belt. Like they've achieved it. Now they're done. And I've had a lot of instructors tell me already at school that black just means you've started. Right.
Yes,
you finally got to the part where you can start.
Yeah.
And you're starting to get into the advanced stuff that they really need.
Yeah. I'm kind of tough on our black belts because a lot of people just quit. They just look at that as the end goal. So I don't actually award the black belt and certificate for a while.
Really?
It just depends.
Right.
I call you have a conditional black belt. You've met all the requirements except for one.
Yeah.
Make me happy and stick it out and show that you're going to continue training and continue progressing.
Sure. And
then I'll give you your 1st degree black belt. And it might be mean, but I'm like, I'm not giving black belts out to quitters.
Well, you want somebody to be part of something bigger.
Yeah, it's just the beginning. I just think, I even look at my Taekwondo 1st degree black belt. I remember when I got my 2nd degree black belt, I looked at the VHS tape I had of my first test, and I was like, oh my, why did he even give it to me? I was terrible.
Yeah.
And then just looking at the progression to 2nd degree Taekwondo black belt, and that was forever ago. I mean, we're talking almost 30 years ago. So the progression, in Krav Maga, I look at what, I knew as a 1st degree black belt, and I've been training in Krav Maga for 10 years.
Really?
I always pushed myself, I missed some tests.
Yeah.
Life got in the way, injuries, and I didn't test, but I always wanted to push myself further. I didn't want to just make it by. I wanted to be in the top of the class. I didn't want there to be a doubt in my instructor's mind that I passed that test. So my Taekwondo black belt took me a little bit, but not that long. My Krav Maga black belt took me 10 years to get.
Say that again?
It took me 10 years.
To get your Krav Maga black belt?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I was in no rush. I wasn't chasing the belt either. I mean, I'm sure I could have done it faster, but I wanted to be as good as I could be.
Sure, you had a lot of self-accountability. And that's what I've also learned is that the accountability that you give to yourself through your system here. Everybody that trains, you have to be responsible for yourself and what you learn and how you use it.
Yeah, it's just my instructor, John Whitman,
Yeah.
from the Krav Maga Alliance, has the saying of lead by example.
Yeah.
That's his training team, lead by example. You've got to do that. Every hard drill that we put students through, I've done before. You got to do it yourself.
Sure.
You have to.
You've mentioned John Whitman now. Not everybody in the audience may know who that is. Who is he?
John Whitman is my instructor.
Okay.
Been training under him originally with Krav Maga Worldwide. And then Krav Maga lost its trademark, which a lot of people don't know.
Really?
So when I started Krav Maga, that was one of the big things that drew me in.
Yeah.
So to become a licensee of Krav Maga Worldwide and to open up your school, you had to be a martial arts school, a boxing academy, something. You had to have some sort of background in martial arts or, contact sport or contact combative sport. And they made it really tough. I mean, they were very clear that we're failing people. This is not a Vegas feel good. You're going to come to this martial arts convention and get certified in X, Y, and Z. I mean, you can go to certifications. You can, now you can do stuff online. They were very clear that you could fail. And I was like, absolutely. They didn't want to spoil the brand.
Sure.
They wanted, when somebody went to a Krav Maga school, they were getting Krav Maga. It's not like, and I always tell people, Krav Maga is like karate, Taekwondo. There's good and bad.
Sure.
Anybody can go open up a school, and that if to be listed on their websites, you had to go through their course, and you could fail. I did courses where the owner failed and the apprentice instructor passed the course, and that drew me in because I'm like, if I stink, I want somebody to tell me.
Sure.
So that was a big, it was scary going to my first training. It was a big investment.
I'm sure.
The two of us showed up, and I thought I was training hard, and I was not ready for Krav Maga. That's for sure.
Really?
A 7-day intensive, all day, 8+ hours, some days of training.
Right.
So That's where, I met John Whitman.
Yeah.
He started the Krav Maga Alliance. We'll leave the political stuff out.
Sure.
In there, he had left Krav Maga Worldwide, started Krav Maga Alliance, was just doing his own gym, and myself and some other guys and girls were like, hey, John, we want to train with you.
Sure.
Oh, no, I'm just doing my own gym. And we're like, okay, fine. When can we come out? Are you teaching on this Saturday? We all want to come out and train with you. And the Krav Maga Alliance was born because we just pressured him into starting a new
when you need to do
instructors. All the instructors that had been training with him wanted to continue training with him. He's a fantastic guy, a great leader, fantastic Krav Maga practitioner, always trying to better himself as well. Wow. So, he trains in jiu-jitsu and tries to bring that stuff over to Krav Maga Alliance. He's always trying to be better. He's a big CrossFitter.
Is he really?
So he is always training hard. And that's what so many people wanted to follow him. And that's where the Krav Maga Alliance was born, out of, Krav Maga losing its trademark, which was a shame.
Yeah.
They kind of said in the court case that it's like Taekwondo, karate. It's the Israeli martial art. It's been referenced in too many books, too many movies. Sure. It's a generic term. You can't trademark a sport.
Got it. Okay.
So unfortunately,
that's how it worked out, huh? Wow.
So unfortunately, now I tell people. It's the same when they're looking. I'm like, I just told the woman the other day, go and check out other schools. See, you got to find the right fit for you.
Absolutely.
Find the place that you're comfortable with. Check out the martial arts. Look around. Some people go to one place and then they sign up, and then 3 months down the line, well, maybe that's not what I was looking for. I tell people to go check things out, or even if a student moves, I'm like, hey, I'll check out their websites and the stuff in your town, and see if I can check them, or I'll give them a call. But check it out. I'm like, the best thing to do is go in and check out other things. You might not find Krav Maga in your town, but there might be a really great self-defense school.
Sure.
It's not Krav Maga.
What's the hallmarks for a good self-defense school? If you had to give them like a top three, what do I want to look for?
They've got to be, practical. They've got to be pressure testing.
Okay.
Their techniques. Does it work? Somebody said, you're like, I don't think that's going to work. We're going to do it.
Sure.
We're like, well, I try to be nice.
Yeah.
You're like, look, I am punching you in the throat, or eye gouging you. Mm. Like I always think of a gun defense. People will like, well, I'm going to shoot you. Like that reaction. I'm like, well, I'm not going to beat the trigger pull. If you're harassing me, whatever the what if scenario is that you're mad and get on the ground, or, what are you doing? Whatever. They haven't quite decided to pull the trigger. That gives me a chance to redirect that line of fire. But then I'm hitting you. And so many times when somebody challenges that, they say a great guideline, I think, is, but you hit me. And I'm like, I told you I was going to hit you 3 times. Well, you hit me. I'm like, yes, that's what I've been saying. Oh, well, that's different. I'm like, yeah, everybody's got a plan.
Yeah, until you get punched in the mouth.
Until you get punched.
Thank you, Mike Tyson.
I'm like, we're hitting. Yeah. Krav Maga, I would say number 2 is one of our huge principles is defend and counterattack simultaneously. There's a lot of things out there that will control or move or try to manipulate or take away the weapon and not even hit them at all. And I'm like, that guy's going to be fighting for his weapon. That's where I'm like, we're like number 1. You should be hitting, defend, counter, hit. Things go wrong, keep hitting. So that would be another one. And, number 3 would just be, there's not a lot of ego. They're just a good community of people that want to learn how to defend themselves.
Sure.
It's just not this macho place that, get out of here, that they're inclusive. Somebody comes in and wants to learn how to defend themselves. They're not going, well, you're out of shape, Well,
that's what people's biggest fears is like, I'm too out of shape. I don't know if I can do it. I'll need extra training. And right away, you guys are like, we love that. Come in.
Yeah, I love helping new people. I love empowering people to learn how to defend themselves. Yeah. So, some places are a little, they've got a lot of ego. I can think of a CrossFit gym years ago. I took, my wife and I took her mother to, and the guy told her, well, we got a few people like you. like meaning old. And she was like, I'm not going back there.
Wow, thanks for nothing.
Yeah, like, whoa. You're like, whoa. And she was looking, for somebody to do private instruction for her. Wow. She didn't want to be in a group class. She wanted to, start with some private instruction like she had done with her daughter and getting that personal attention. And this guy was like, we got a few people like you. I mean, even, in the fitness, there's fitness gyms, there's martial arts gyms that are like that. I mean, I've had a firefighter say he went to a CrossFit gym and they asked him, do you want to compete? And he's like, no, I just want to get in good shape for my job. And he's like, well, you can go over there with the people that just want to look good.
Really?
So, there's a lot of ego out there. It's different school owners. You got to find the right fit for the gym. Sometimes it can be the greatest assistant. It can be fantastic, whatever. Tomorrow the best thing invented in the world is out there, but if the person's teaching it is just absolute jerk, arrogant, ego,
I don't want to spend my money on that.
Yeah, who wants to be around that?
Right.
A toxic environment.
No, I want somebody to build me up, not break me down.
It's all about the instructor. It's got to be a good fit.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's one of the hard things. When people switch coaches or they move. Yeah. You're like, well, go around and find another fit. There's plenty of great people out there.
You guys helped me find the fit that I was looking for. I was also looking at one of your classes the other day, and I was watching the amount of intensity that was going on during training, because you guys were saying that grab this person, pull them to the side, and then have them do their technique to deal with that. And in the middle of it, someone kind of grabbed someone and said, "That's not a grab." Yank them down. And I watched you pull the hair of one of your instructors like you meant it, right? And I realized that level of intensity in training was important, because somebody on the street's just going to grab you. They're going to try everything in their power to harm you, and that's what you were putting forward in your class. And I think that intensity is what really excited me, because you love this word. It's practical. It's something that I'm going to use. Yeah. And that, it was like a light went on for me.
And of course we start slowly but surely with people, and over, Krav Maga is really known for its drills, and we slowly build people up. We slowly build people up. Just last night in my elementary school class, we put a pad in between two kids and said, now you're going to fight for the pad. Here's the rules. You can tickle, and you can slap below the elbows, and you can always use your voice and say, go lighter. Yeah. That I don't feel that. You can hit me harder. Sure. But even some of the kids, I'm like, is it okay to fight for something you love? And even some of the kids said, no, it's not okay. It's not okay to fight. And I'm like, it's not okay to fight for you? Yeah. Especially like somebody's trying to hurt you. Is it okay to, fight for, your sister or whatever? They're like, oh yeah. But fighting's bad, right? And so I'm trying to teach the kids. Right. Like, yes, like in the wrong, like for you, right? What's the context? As a person, you're trying to protect people. That's Krav Maga. So one may walk in peace. I'm like, good people need to know how to fight. Otherwise, it's just going to be bad people taking over and bullying and you name it. So they're doing that drill and they're getting hit. And I said, look, the reason we're doing this is out on the street. You don't want the first time you got hit to be the first time you got hit or the first time you got your hair grabbed. Yeah. Let's start slow and easy, but we're going to make it harder and harder as you advance so it really works. Sure. And that's the end goal. We want it to be practical.
Gold, right? Learning how to take a hit's the most important thing I learned in a fight. Is that I've seen people get popped and it's, they're shocked. And there's other people that get popped and then it's on, and that's where I want to be. I don't want to get popped and be like, oh no, don't hurt me. I want to be able to protect myself or my wife.
That was my first, I think I was probably 2nd degree Taekwondo. Yeah. And, Master Miller wanted us to go to a tournament. So, I went because lead by example, like he was pushing these students to do a tournament. So I'm going to go and do the tournament. And I was sparring, or I use the word sparring, but the tournament, it's pretty much like sparring, those things. Not much of a fight.
Because it's a sport.
Yeah. It's a sport. There's a rule. There's a ref. Yeah. And the guy was a 3rd or 4th degree black belt, and I jabbed him in the face, and his reaction was to cover up and kind of be hurt. And look for time, not like you getting hit in the face, like whatever.
Yeah, keep moving.
Like you better keep hitting. It's not,
Wow.
It should be protect yourself at all times, not cover up and like kind of be in shock. Of course, that takes time to get used to.
Yeah.
And we're like, everybody's got to start somewhere. I've seen students come that you didn't think they were going to come back in, move up through, and they're doing sparring class.
Sure.
And of course, all those have to be doable for the beginner. Sure. Everybody's got to start somewhere. I was like, if you're starting sparring and you're being a bully, well, one of the upper belts will bully you then. So let's not be a bully. If you're better than somebody else, that's no point of beating up a lower student, right? I mean, that's not impressing anybody.
Yeah.
Right. So we're like, there's no bullies here. Like, if you're better, you should taking it down to that new person's level. And if somebody comes in trying to kill you, then you tell them to slow down.
Or to take that and
let's
teach somebody something new so you can raise their level.
Yeah.
That's what you guys have been doing a lot with me, which kind of goes to what your philosophy is here. So what is your general philosophy with Krav? Or at least your gym, life, new students? What philosophies do you stick to with that?
We really want to build confidence. Number one, we want to build confidence. Our kids' classes start with, we're here to build a strong mind and a strong body. Okay. And you definitely have to have that connection. I always tell people.
So when you say strong mind, somebody that's able to assess a situation, be able to identify if you're being attacked or bullied, or what do you mean by that?
Oh, absolutely. But really just, strong mind's going to carry you further than a strong body. You just got to be mentally strong.
Okay.
Like, hey, this is going to be a challenge and I'm going to take it on. Mm-hmm. There's just so much that goes into building somebody up and building their confidence depending on where they came from. Maybe they're, were a competitive athlete all their life. They've got a lot of that built into them. But some students have never done anything, and teaching them they can overcome. And it's not, don't quit on yourself. I mean, so many people beat themselves up mentally. Something my wife says, we're here to build people up. Like, so much of what life and work can do to you just beats people up. Mm-hmm. We want to be a positive aspect in people's lives and not beat them down. Yeah. It's so hard.
Because after a rough day
where
at
they've
work,
come,
I come here to relax. It's one of my positive parts of my day. Because I know, no matter how tough my day has been at work, how much my boss has been on me about something, or I made a mistake, I know I could come here and just, it's like I'm happier. It's like a part of me comes out and I get to play, meaning that I get to spar with people, learn something new, and then it just lifts up my spirits. Sounds crazy, and people don't realize it, but it does.
I mean, absolutely.
Really does.
Yeah, absolutely. I could go off on a tangent on that and what martial arts has done for me mentally. It has just changed me so much. And even when I left it and came back, what a difference it is. So I always tell people, find one. But, we're always trying to build people up. And it's just a whole community of like-minded people. Half the gym is fitness. The other half is self-defense. And, they go hand in hand in a lot of aspects. Sometimes our fitness members aren't necessarily like, oh, I don't know about getting choked, and which, it's hard to overcome. Our Krav Maga people are usually generally into both. Sure. Some people, though,
some people truly do fear like confrontation on every level.
Yeah.
Whether it be verbal or physical. And
and just knowing you can defend yourself and stand up, even, if it's at work, somebody taking credit for something, you name it, kids at school, just having that confidence that martial arts brings to people, that's our number one thing. Yeah. We want to just see people empowered and feel better about themselves.
It changes your outlook, your body language,
Yeah. It's always get people a little bit better. I told an instructor years ago that didn't think somebody should advance, up a belt. I'm like, look, it's a bit, there's obviously a standard, but everybody is coming from different places. Mm-hmm. And what we're really trying to do here is get everybody just a little bit better every time they come in, so they're healthier, they're safer, right? Their family is safer if we're making that individual just a little bit better versus saying, hey, you're not going to get as good as me.
Sure.
I told that instructor I'd take their belt, because I think it took them about 4 or 5 for a student to get their black belt. Yeah. And I said, I'll take your belt. Why? Oh, if we're doing standards, you don't meet my standard.
Really?
I'll take your belt. You know, and it's something I've struggled with. We're, you know, really pushing our, you know, our black belts and our red belts to do more testing, because I didn't want to feel like I was making people do it, but it was really a mistake I made of not making them do it, not forcing them as a requirement. And you could see the ones that had a passion for it and asked to coach, how much better they were over the guys and girls that didn't coach a class. Really? And I was like, I think it's a mistake. They need to be spending time coaching. And that person, and I'm like, how many knife seminars have you done? What are you going to do for a knife seminar? Or it's like my awesome manager, Jamie. I was like, oh no, we've got this group coming in and I've got another meeting. You're going to have to do it. Yeah. What am I going to do? I'm like, Krav Maga. Right. But I've never done it. I can't do it. And I'm like, yeah, you can. It's just Krav Maga. Yeah. But I look at how many of those things that I've done over the years, and I looked at this belt in particular, this black belt in particular, and going, you haven't done any of those things. So that was my standard. You know, the things that I experienced, you know, opening a school, and you were the person. Yeah. You were it. So I was going to my instructor and doing other things as well and bringing them back to my school, and then doing seminars and workshops on those things when my black belts weren't, because I was doing it. Yeah. You know, it's like, you know, I can't do it all. I mean, I'd love to. Right. I love to do them. And I'm like really going, this is a mistake. I need to be having my first degree black belts when they get in there doing some of these courses, because they've never done them. Wow. Yeah. And it was just something I kind of took for granted, going, that's a mistake. Sure. You know, I didn't want to be we don't let kids teach kids. And, you know, some martial arts schools will have, first degree black belts or conditional black belts, whatever it may be in that school, teaching other kids. And I'm like, there's so much that goes into teaching kids. Coaching's... Never mind having a kid coach kids. Like, we have some kids in our teen program that want to help them, with us, but there's an adult coaching the class, and they're helping out. Where I've had parents come back to me and go, "Oh my gosh, there's kids coaching the kids class,"
which is wild. It's like
a couple years older, and you're like, "Well, I have a hard enough time,
right? You can come in." So what's the current state of Krav Maga, and where do you think it's going?
Current state, there's just so many organizations now that, you got to pick from the good and the bad. There's good and there's bad out there. Like everything else, it's very unfortunate that Krav Maga lost its trademark. Yeah. That's an unfortunate thing, but, make the best out of it. There's your growth. Just try to be better. Yeah. Just try to be better than anything else out there. So when somebody comes in and sees you training, hopefully they compared and check things out that, oh, wow, this seems like a better place. I think Krav Maga is always evolving. We're always trying to be better as a system. Like I said, we incorporate so much more ground than when I started 21 years ago in Krav Maga. Really? We incorporate more because that's a bigger threat. At the time, more people were doing karate and taekwondo. Oh. There's more people doing BJJ now than I would argue, or I don't know the current numbers, but it definitely is the most popular martial art out there. You get somebody as big as Joe Rogan talking about it just on a daily basis. It's going to be popular because
right? he's super popular.
He's a big influence on people. And I always tell people, you got to find the right fit for you. Sure. I don't think I have enough time to specialize in one thing, and it's not weapon threats. It's not those things, and you can't always walk away. I love it on YouTube when people are like, you're going to get killed and never do this. And you're like, if somebody's going to pull the trigger, if I feel like I'm going to die, I'm going to try to do something. Right. You're like, yes, a 5.56 round, I don't want to get hit with a pellet gun.
Yeah.
Never mind a 5.56 round. And you can't always walk away. I always say it's the ultimate Krav Maga divorce. Just run away from your wife. See how that goes. Leave her at gunpoint. You run away. Yeah. You know, sometimes you're left with no choice. I would always negotiate. Can you calm that? Can you cooperate? But what's the scenario? Yeah. You know, Krav Maga is always evolving. You know, what's the threat? So I always tell people when they move, you gotta, it's not a Krav Maga Alliance school. I'm like, go check them out. Right. There's lots of good and there's lots of bad. I mean, that's the unfortunate thing, I think, now with the state of Krav Maga is you could fail an organization and then go find one that's going to pass you.
Sure.
But that's been karate and taekwondo and the martial arts are just, you know, people think they're awesome and they open their own boxing gym.
Yeah. You
know, so you got to go and check out that school.
Right. That's what I did when I used the internet to do that.
Yeah.
I hear the manager laughing in the background. She thought that was funny. So what has been the biggest challenges that you've faced in running like a school or teaching? Let's go with just starting a gym, because that's
starting a gym is not.
That's hard, isn't it?
It's not easy.
Yeah,
it's not easy. I think that's why so many martial arts and gyms go out of business. I think it's the first year or two they're going out of business because it's.
And how long have you guys been around?
We've been in Castle Rock for 16 plus years now.
So you've already.
I've done my own. You know, originally I had my Krav Maga Nantucket gym. Yeah. I was running that, but I was also a carpenter full time, and was slowly phasing out of that.
Yeah.
So it's not all easy. You know, you've got to run the business. You've got to be so well rounded, especially these days. I should say it's so much easier when you could put an ad in the newspaper, and now you're like, where do I advertise?
Yeah.
Google, Instagram. Where are people?
Social media?
Like, people are everywhere these days.
Yeah.
So it's a challenge to get new students. There's always
nobody gets a newspaper anymore.
Yeah, nobody reads the newspaper. So, you know, you've got to be able to run a business and be successful. It is a business. Otherwise, you're going to go out of business and you're going to be in trouble, right? You're not going to be feeding your family. I'm like, I tell like people, I'm like, I'm trying to feed my family here. This is not wax on, wax off Karate Kid. Like, you know, I mean, you can't paint my fence. I mean, I am king of trades. I have traded with people over the years. But I'm like, you can't do that all the time. I mean, it's definitely a challenge that way, that you have to be so well-rounded these days to be a small business owner of whatever sort, because there's just so much out there, so much to learn. You know, my wife helps me out a ton. She's an HR consultant. Really? So I'm much better at dealing with problem employees.
Excuse me.
So, but the best part of Krav Maga is I can pull their hair and, you know, punch them in the face and say, hey, you should have defended that punch. I don't know why your defense isn't better than that. No. Jamie's fantastic. I love to tease her.
Your staff has been fantastic here.
We've got some great people. That's something, you know, I cherish. It's always hard. You know, we've just lost several people, you know, over COVID that moved, and we had two.
COVID was a real challenge for you, wasn't it?
Yeah, we had two fantastic coaches. One, his wife got transferred, and another one joined the Army after he was with me since I think he was like 14 or 15. At 22, he just joined the Army.
Good for him.
Yeah, going on the Green Beret track.
Woo! They're going to love him.
Yeah, they already love him.
Sure.
I think, unfortunately, boot camp was a little bit of a letdown for him because he'd think it was going to be harder than it was. And I'm like, dude, you're a 1%er.
Yeah.
I mean, how many of those, you know, kids out there coming into the military have even taken a martial arts class
or even jog every morning?
That are out of shape. I mean, I get people every once in a while that, hey, I'm going into the Army or Marines after high school, and I'm like, what are you doing? Nothing. I'm like, boot camp's going to be really hard. You better get in here. You better get doing something, or that's going to be real miserable.
Yeah, it'd be exciting to see what he does on that Green Beret track.
Yeah.
Hey, that'll be
exciting.
Really fun for him.
Yeah.
And that's got to make you feel good too, knowing that when somebody goes into one of those kind of fields, that they've got this background that you've helped them.
Yeah, help shape their character.
Sure.
I mean, it's one thing, you know, people will come back and say, again, confidence in what you did for me and my confidence. There's just so many stories of that. And,
I'm sure you'll be telling us as we move on. So.
Hearing of people's success is always awesome.
Yeah.
And that's the fulfilling part of being a coach, and all the sacrifices that go in, the long hours of running a gym and what you have to put in to run a successful martial arts school. You know, I mean, any small business takes a lot of work, these days. Yeah.
And yours is very one-on-one at times, right? You're very involved with, quote unquote, your customer/client. Yeah. So the amount of time I've seen you put in the short time that I've gone to your school has just blown my mind.
Oh, well, thanks. I mean, I try my best, you know, it's always a challenge. So, but all you can do is, you know, try to do your best every day and come back the next day and try your best again.
All right. So before we wrap this up, what is your favorite action/martial arts/kung fu movie?
Oh, that is really tough. I'm just going to have to say Bloodsport, because
Bloodsport, great choice.
You know, because the Bruce Lee movies weren't really on HBO way back. I mean, again, Josh, I'm old. I'm going to be 51 pretty soon.
I'm not that much younger than you.
You look a whole lot better.
Well, you're right. I'll go with that one. I'll agree. But so Bloodsport, that was Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Yeah. And you know, that just played all the time.
Yeah.
On HBO reruns back in the day. And
he was the whole reason I wanted to be able to do the splits.
Yeah.
Because that dude had those. I mean,
just want to kick down a bamboo tree.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
And then, I was a big Van Damme fan, still am.
So I have to, there's so many good ones out there, you know, but, you know, Karate Kid, that was just inspirational.
That's what got me into wanting to do martial arts. I watched Karate Kid one day and I was like, I want to do that. I want to be just like Daniel-san.
Yeah, I did a business seminar with a guy that was in business.
Yeah. When
the Karate Kid came out, and he said he was painting houses, you know, and like so many martial arts school owners, you know, they're doing a day job to be able to keep the doors open.
Sure.
That they're just doing it on the side. It's a side business. It's like going and waiting tables or bartending after your regular job for so many people. He said he walked around, he had parked, the layout of, I forget what town he was in. He, you know, had parked and was walking down the street to his martial arts school, and there's people lined up around the block with their kids to get in, and how that just changed martial arts. And you know, that was a cool story of somebody in the business along before me, of like how that just changed things. So I think it was very, you know, it's a good inspirational story. I love to, you know, quote, you know, I have a lot of John Krav Maga trivia and different things, but I love to, you know, Mr. Miyagi.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get Jamie on your show and then question her on some of those and see if she comes up with answers. Or name that movie.
Do burpees,
Burpees?
She's young.
Yeah, she is.
I don't even know.
She worked me out so hard one day, I wanted to actually throw up.
Good, at least you were pushing yourself.
Oh my gosh, I thought I was going to lose it. And I was like, oh my goodness. And she kind of just smirked and laughed. I mean, she was like, you can do better. It was great. It was a lot of fun. I love this place. So that's why
I tell people my first Krav Maga class was super hard. And I was training for it. I'm like, no matter what shape you're in, it's going to be hard. I tell them, like, no matter what shape you're in, it's going to be hard. It's going to challenge you, but you're going to leave feeling empowered. You know, it should be hard. Yeah. Otherwise, what did you just do?
There's no benefit.
Feel good self-defense is what you probably just did. If you didn't feel like, you know, you had to fight for something, or even fight from throwing up.
Yeah.
Like I was working hard. That's something we want you. Like you felt like you were in a fight.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to be that student that was like, you know, losing it in the trash can and then getting, you know, a little razz for that.
Yeah.
But this, she's like, at least you're pushing yourself.
Yeah,
that was the idea. I go until I feel like I'm going to throw up.
Yeah, so many people have that mindset of pushing themselves.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we'd love to, you know, maybe have you back. I mean, we just ended up talking about Krav Maga. I mean, you're new to it, but there's just so much to talk about. I am John Hallett from the John Hallett Podcast. This is brought to you by Rocky Mountain Self-Defense and Fitness, and ClearSky.Training, our online portal. You can find us at www.rmsdf.com and ClearSky.Training. You can find those on all the socials, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and those are also our websites. So we'd love to see you back. Hopefully this first podcast went well, and number 2 is even better, because that's what we're striving to do around here, just to try to be a little bit better every day. Take care.